Theology. Unplugged.
Let's talk about worldview crashing scriptures. That's what I want to talk about. Hey guys, I'm Michael Patton. We are doing run-of-the-mill Theology Unplugged today. So welcome those of you who are on Spotify. Welcome those of you who are on YouTube or wherever you come from. You can kind of get this across the board. I think if you search on YouTube for Theology Unplugged, you're going to find Theology Unplugged, the right thing. But it's under Credo House. So if you search for Credo House, you'll find Theology Unplugged. We've got all kinds of stuff on Credo House at YouTube. You've got to sign up. But welcome to everybody, wherever you are coming from and whenever you are listening to this. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys. If you like this, at some point, hit that like button because it does help. As I think it's good enough for this spread. I don't know. I guess you have to be the judge on that. But today we're going to be talking about a couple of passages of scripture. I bet you guys could guess. If I asked you, I said, what two passages of scripture might I be talking about that I am using as the springboard to say, here is worldview. Here are some worldview crashers. That's what I want to talk about, worldview crashers. And it really does crash your worldview. And the thing that I like is I really like doing this today because there's so many things that are going on in our world right now that are crashing our worldview, or at least should be crashing our worldview. If your worldview is too tame, I don't think you're going to, it's not going to last long, trust me. It may last your lifetime if you force it into the box you have it, but my view is, and you may have noticed a lot of this within me lately, especially, it's somewhat of a change, not a change in the way I interpret these passages, but just kind of a settlement that I have come to about the mystery of God. And I quote and I talk all the time about Dionysius the Areopagite, one of the 4th century church fathers. And it's really pseudo Dionysius the Areopagite, but one of the most beautiful teachers. Augustine's my favorite, but pseudo Dionysius, if you ever want to go to some place and read something about the mystical theology and understanding of God's infinitude and what we do in the presence of that infinitude, I say go to Dionysius the Areopagite. And you know what? Let me see if I can get this right. Right here, throughthechurchfathers.com. That is where I want you to go. This is called Patristic Pathways. Let me tell you something. I should have loaded this up so I could show you all the stuff we're doing. But right now we're going through all of the church fathers in 1 year, from cover to cover, each book. We're not covering sections that just defend what it is we want to defend, but we are getting them in their raw form. And it is so much fun. We got 500 people going through it. And next year, we're not only doing this again, through the church fathers, that is the early church fathers, the apostolic fathers, with Ignatius and Justin Martyr and Polycarp and Clement and Irenaeus, and we're hitting Augustine every day, and we're hitting Aquinas every day, even though he's not an early church father. It's just to get our intellectual vigor in with Aquinas. But we are going through all of these guys and more. Dionysius the Areopagite's coming this year. So jump in. You can jump in anytime. But we're going to do this exact same thing again next year if you wanted to start over or jump in then. But we're also going to do a year through Calvin's Institutes. We're going to do a year through The City of God by Augustine. And I'm breaking it all up for you. You can trust in me to take it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the translation a slight bit more readable in some cases. Not only I keep it very faithful to the original, but I'm curating. That's what I'm doing. I'm curating. So anyway, throughthechurchfathers.com, that is where I want you to go. I want you to become part of that. I hope you do. Tell other people about it. Spread the word. Credo House, Patristic Pathways. It's not as if I don't start enough stuff, right? My goodness, I get stuff going, but this is really exciting. I see God's hand in this quite a bit right now. That's why I'm putting a lot of energy into it. Okay, let's get to the worldview crashing scriptures, things that you read and you can read and you can pass over very easily. But I think God included these scriptures for that very reason. Not to make us overinterpret, not to make us have a complete worldview, but to say, hey, you know what you think is going on, the way you see things? Let me put something in here that's going on behind the scenes. What really is happening and what I'm dealing with and how I run the world. And frankly, you're not the only ones out there. And frankly, the things you see are not the only things there are. There's so much more. I am an infinite God, and I have infinite things going on. I think we're the center. Don't get me wrong. I actually do think we're the center of the creation. And I think that's part of the reason why the angels fell, but that's a different story. That's not exactly what I'm talking about today. But I don't want it to look like we're just one among many. That's not what it is. We're the ones, we are uniquely in the image of God, which is very, very special, and we can't let that go. Okay, let's start with Genesis chapter 1. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. Look at this, okay? You've probably read this before. Every one of you. You half of you guys know the controversy. Half of those people have your minds made up about what this means. And then the other half are like, I just pass over that every time. I have no clue what that means, Michael, and I don't even read it. And I understand. I understand that. Let's read this, okay? When man began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them. And you think I'm talking about the flood. That is not what I'm talking about, even though that's a worldview crasher, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Whenever men began to multiply, daughters were born. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive or were beautiful, and they took as their wives as many as they chose. That is crazy right there. Verse 2 is it's crazier to me than whenever you come down and you get into the flood story. The flood story takes up a lot of space during this time because we're getting to Abraham and we're seeing everything kind of develop before we get to the Genesis chapter 3 verse 15 promise of God crushing the serpent's head through the seed of a woman. But that's what we're trying to get to fast. And God just kind of fast forwards through a whole lot. And man, did he fast forward through this. What in the world is going on with these sons of God that saw the daughters of men were attractive? Is he saying men saw women were attractive and had children, took wives? No, of course. So he created us. And so there's nothing special to tell about men being attracted to women. This is a certain creation. And it says the sons of God looked down and saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. Okay, the big question is, who are these sons of God? Obviously. I mean, because that's not a normal term we use for people. It's not a normal term so far in the Bible. So whenever you look, this is the way you interpret the scripture. This is called hermeneutics. It's what you do whenever you come across something you have never seen. First of all, you look for the same use in the current author. If the current author uses it some other time, then that will help us, because context always determines these things. And so you look throughout the rest of Genesis, and then you look throughout the rest of the Bible, and you say, does the Bible use sons of God, and how does it use it? And it's pretty much universally accepted that any time outside of Genesis chapter 6, the term sons of God is used, it references angels or celestial beings or divine beings that we haven't been introduced to. They're just there. They're already there. It hasn't told us about in the beginning, God created the heavens. That includes a whole lot more than we think. Not just, heaven where you go when you die in a little temporary place. The heavens has to do with just, he created everything at once. And the angels, men, the heavens, if there's any dimensions we talk about, if there's any other created spirits of God, if there's any other created beings of God, no matter what, this is where it fits. In the beginning, God did it. So we know that. So whoever these sons of God are, they are creations of God. But we know from the rest of Scripture that these sons of God are angels, angelic beings, or celestial beings. Now, a lot of people say, listen, you can't go there, Michael. That's too crazy. That's one of the things I want to talk about, because this is where I think we go very, very wrong sometimes. We think we interpret things according to the bizarre principle. Well, how bizarre is it? If it's really weird, then we don't want to accept it. It's not that we don't want to accept it. That's not it. It's that we don't want to be seen as being weird. We have a propensity within us to be normal. And I understand that. Of course, I do too. But at the same time, whenever you're talking about worldview stuff, no matter what, things are weird. Okay, you got to start with that principle. Just because things have become normal because we see them every day doesn't mean they're not weird. Just because I'm sitting here talking to you and you're wherever you're at and you're over there pressing like over and over again on this video, I told you to do that and you did it somewhere else, right? Like right now, I told you to do it and you did it. Okay, so after you've done that, how do you? That's just weird. It's all weird. It's weird that you can hear me. It's weird that I need you to push that like. It's weird that goes into an algorithm. It's just normal, though. It's become normalized, and once it's normalized, it becomes staple. Once it's staple, we don't really think about it as weird anymore. Every once in a while, we have a moment of clarity, and we say, this is just a weird world. Everything that has been created is weird. I had the biggest moment of clarity whenever my first daughter was, really all my kids, but my first daughter, it was always kind of like a theory that babies came from women's stomachs, from their uterus. And I didn't think of it that way. I didn't know I thought of it as a theory. I just thought of it as a fact. And I was excited about it. But whenever I saw her being born, I mean, my world just blew up. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, this actually happens. This is real. What I'm seeing right now is how in the world does this happen? It's weird. It's bizarre. It's crazy. It blows up my worldview if my worldview is too stable. And trust me, God has so many things to blow your worldview away. Every single thing that is on this planet right now, every single thing that you know, every single rational thought that you have, it's just weird. You shouldn't be having them. The very creation itself is weird. It's not just naturally there. So everything is weird. We got to start with that principle. And I think that's one of the reasons why God included this, because it is a worldview blow up, and he just runs by it. I mean, he doesn't tell us and answer all these questions. Listen to this. It says, the sons of men saw that the sons of God, angels, saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not abide with man forever, for he is flesh, and his days will be 120 years. That's a different question. A different kind of, not weirdness, that has a better explanation. That's more stable for us. We get it. But then it says, listen to this, verse 4, the Nephilim, first time we've seen this word, were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. Such a key, and also afterwards. Well, what are we talking about here? Genesis. Well, no, but back when the sons of God came in, had sex with the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. That's the Nephilim. These were the mighty men, the great men of old, the men of renown, the heroes that you hear about. That's what Genesis is telling them. You know those heroes you hear about all the time, those giants, those powerful men? That's who the Nephilim were. Now, we have this whole world set up that just exploded us. I mean, the most bizarre passage in the Bible has just been given to us, and we just kind of, okay, what do we do with that? Can we go to the next verse and you explain exactly what this is and what this means for me today? And what do you mean that the Nephilim were on the earth afterwards? After what? The flood? Okay, how did they get on the earth afterwards? What is going on? That's the idea. Well, the Lord saw the wicked, verse 5, the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Now, verse 5 follows verse 4, which talks about the Nephilim. Now, I think the world had just become so corrupt with whatever happened. These sons of God came in and just exploded the world. I'm not saying man is not at fault as well, because man always has to answer for himself. But these sons of God came down, these Nephilim, whatever they were giants, they were men of renown. This time period lasted a long time. This isn't just for a few years, the sons of God came down and had wives and had children called the Nephilim, and then a couple of years later, God destroyed it. No, this was ages. This is where we get probably so many of our stories of old that are the weirdest stories. The crazy stuff about, the Greeks and the Romans, what they looked back to, and the heroes that they had, and even the gods that they had. The gods that they looked to, who were these gods? Well, they were probably these angels. I mean, it fits right in perfectly. These angels came down. They weren't supposed to. That made the Bible makes this clear. They weren't supposed to. They crossed the domain. Jude tells us the same thing. Peter tells us the same thing. They rebelled. They will be dealt with. These angels will be dealt with. They were not supposed to do this. But we got these Nephilim now, and these Nephilim, all kinds of, what did the angels tell people? What did they sit around and talk about? What did they do for a living? Did they do anything for a living? Did they hold conferences to tell people stuff? Did they invent anything? Were they trying to take over the earth and basically usurp what God was doing with man? That's what it looks like. They look down and they say, man, these men down there, they're lucky. Let's take their place. And look at that. They're having children. They're reproducing. Let's do the same thing. Now, of course, we got the question, how do angels have sex with humans? Don't know. But obviously, listen to this. Here's the weird thing you have to at least open your mind to. Obviously, they had the technology or the power to make a human and angelic hybrid that was called a Nephilim. Now, what do you do with that? Once you do that, then you say, that is possible. That is, it's not like a logical contradiction. We've got hybrids of all kinds of things. And now we have a hybrid of an angel and a human. We have some type of, they knew how to do it. Don't know how. Or their anatomy just naturally was close enough to a human, which I don't think is true, but maybe this is true. It's possible that their anatomy is close enough to a human to where they can make babies with humans. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Here's all we're doing is verse 5, the Lord saw the wickedness was so great. Every intention of the heart was evil continually. I'm sorry I made this earth. Look what's going on. Look what it's turned into. And the Lord said, I'm starting over because this can't be redeemed. However, the problem is, yes, God started over, flooded the earth. That's not even weird anymore because every 250 flood stories that are viable flood stories around the world. If a flood happened, this is what you expect. A flood happened, period. Doesn't matter whether you think it was worldwide or just upon the inhabitants of the earth. But we got flood stories from Hawaii to Jerusalem to Egypt they're all over the place. And so, what do you do with that? Well, there was a flood. We know there was a flood, period. There's just no denying that. I know it's weird that the whole earth flooded. I know that secularism has come out and said, here's how you explain that. They're always going to come up with something. For every weird thing that is shown to be true, they will always rationalize it to be without God, whatever they do. If they can rationalize what's going on right now, without the angels, without the floods, rationalize what's going on right now without God, we can do it. They can do it with anything. We've got all kinds of ways to rationalize and sin and reject God. It's not as if it's easy to accept an everyday life without these crazy things. But every once in a while, God just kind of comes in here and says, let me show you something behind the scenes. Let me pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. And it is nuts. It is nuts. It blows up your worldview. Bizarre things come in here and say, hey, don't get too tight in your thinking. Don't put too much in a box. Now you can learn and you can trust what you're learning to a large degree, We can go in the right direction, but it doesn't mean we're even close to having journeyed anywhere with an infinite God. It's going to be forever. We'll be discovering forever. There'll be bizarre things like this for all eternity, because God's always got something greater, something crazier, something that we need to accept this. We need to embrace it and be excited about the mystery that this produces. Now, I think we can interpret it generally. Yes, angels came down. Yes, giants were on the earth. And yes, here's the key, because remember whenever I said there is a phrase that came in that's very important. It says the Nephilim, verse 4, were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. So somehow the Nephilim, I don't think they survived flood, because it says everything that breathed died. And I figured that the anatomy of an angel and a Nephilim would need to breathe. I don't know, though. Maybe they didn't need to breathe. But why would God flood the earth if it got corrupt? And the implication here is the Nephilim were a part of it with humans. It seems like he's destroying everything, including the Nephilim. However, somehow the Nephilim get back on the earth later, which basically tells me my Sunday school class that says the angels fell at the very beginning sometime. We don't know, when they fell. It's either before creation or after, but they all chose, and you got this one-time fall. I don't know that's true. I have no idea. This seems to suggest that we've got bad sons of God up there doing something all the time, and there's good ones too, and they can choose right or wrong at any time. They can still be tempted. That these were tempted by the beauty of a woman. How in the world does an angel become tempted by the beauty of a woman? I think it was mostly because they were tempted to this is just kind of my side interpretation, but I think they just looked down and saw, I want to have children. I want to do what they're doing. Look how much they are like God, creating, discovering, moving forward. Let's get down there and do it ourselves, because we can do it better. And I think angels can do this at any time. Therefore, here's the key. Here's the key that you guys are going to depart, turn this off on probably. I think there's Nephilim on the earth today. Why not? Does this tell us that? All this tells us is we don't know what's going on. And anything like this is possible. So if we got babies born, then Nephilim are no big deal. They're not. It's not, and babies are born, so therefore Nephilim are no big deal. But of course, what are the Nephilim today? I don't know. But listen, all I know is that I'm a little bit too much into the cryptid stuff. Talk about cryptids and ghosts and just paranormal stuff. I love that stuff. Now, I don't dab in it in any sense myself. No, I don't even. I'm scared to, because of what I've seen, what I know about it all. I'm scared. Don't mess with it. But I do learn it in order to incorporate it in this way. That I know there's a lot of things that are going on that don't make sense to me. But people are seeing them. There are people that are having near-death experiences, hundreds, thousands of them throughout time. And, are they all lying? Are they all mistaken? Did they all not really die? All it takes is one to have this bizarre blow up in your world, for those of you who don't believe in an afterlife. But we've got testimony after testimony. Whenever you have that many testimonies and people don't have any reason to lie, that is evident in any sense, which most of them don't. I mean, there's absolutely no reason, and therefore it is irrational for us to reject these things based upon my worldview says that can't happen. Well, you got to change your worldview according to the evidence. You don't assume a worldview and then fit everything into it. That's deductive. You start inductively, and you say, what is this world like? What is going on? And you don't start by saying, well, whatever I experience is the only thing. Now I do need to qualify this, because I think it's important for those of you who think I'm, too accepting of stuff like this, and maybe too radical in some ways. I may be. That is true. But at the same time, I am not a charismatic, and I want to be. You've heard that from me many, many times. I go to churches where I look and watch what's going on, charismatic churches. I talk to charismatic people. I see, I've been prophesied over umpteen times. Good churches, good evangelical churches, the ones that people tell me to go to that are charismatic. And I'm not charismatic. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I don't have the testimonies that would establish that in the church today, these supernatural sign gifts are normative. And that's the key, normative. I did not say miracles don't happen. I think the testimonies of miracles are all over. I believe them. Okay, I don't believe every one, and I evaluate them individually, but there's so many. They can't all be wrong. I mean, go get Craig Keener's 2-volume set on miracles. It's amazing. It's just testimony after testimony, evidence, deep evidence, doctor's notes, hospital x-rays. I mean, everything that you need to be able to establish that a true miracle happened. They would all have to be wrong for your worldview to stay tight. You see, these things will come in and just explode your worldview. I think we live in a rational, working world, but also there's something going on in the background, something bigger, something like this. God throws in every once in a while a Genesis chapter 6 in the Bible or a Genesis chapter 6 in your life. There are you go across the board on not even just in the Christian community. You go to every community that has ever existed, and there are just weird, consistent testimonies in so many areas. Now, why do I say all this? Because, I mean, it's one of the things is you're living in a world right now where somebody comes on the news and says, yeah, UFOs exist. The thing that could not fit into your worldview before, now they're saying at least that there are UFOs. Now you may say, Michael, I don't believe they're UFOs. I at least don't believe they're aliens because I don't. That's fine. But we don't know really what's going on. Something weird and supernatural seems to be happening. Now you may say, Michael, there's an explanation for all this. Of course there is. It's not like God doesn't have an explanation for UFOs. And you might say, Michael, there's a rational explanation for this. Of course there is. It's not like he's going to give you an irrational explanation. God understands everything, and eventually that which seems irrational, that which is beyond our understanding can become a part of our current understanding. That happens all the time. So I'm not saying we're not going to be able to explain these, but what I'm saying is what they tell us is that there's something more going on behind the scenes. Now, could it be a different dimension? They're coming through portals. Could it be, I mean, these cattle mutilations that are so consistent are just absolutely bizarre. But you take every one of these. I could give you a list of 30 examples where you have hundreds and thousands of testimonies across not only the world today, but across time that don't fit into your current worldview, that will explode it, that are Genesis chapter 6 type things. And what you have to say is all of them are wrong. Every single one of them. Everybody that's ever seen a ghost, everybody that's ever seen a demon, everybody that's ever seen demon-possessed people. We don't know what's going on. I believe in ghosts. I do, because the testimony's out there. You may say, no, they're demons. I don't believe they're demons. I believe they're probably just disembodied spirits of unbelievers that are left here waiting the judgment, because I don't think there's a hell right now. Now, I don't have time to go into that, but I think hell isn't open for business. I think it opens for business after judgment only. You may say, Michael, what about the rich man and Lazarus? Well, that's telling us a general, you don't make parables walk on all fours. And it doesn't tell us when all this stuff has taken place. And I think it's just saying, generally speaking, once everything is done, one group will be with Abraham in the presence of God, and one group will be suffering. That's all it's telling us. Not saying when. So here's the thing that I'm throwing in here is that we live in a very weird world, and we've got to see these things as worldview busters, as bizarre things that God is saying, don't get too tight in your understanding of things. I've got so much more going on. We really don't know what else he's got going on. I mean, let's consider this. Here's the second. I think that's the first most bizarre passage in the Bible. Let me show you the second most. And it's very, very close to the first. Okay, let's go to, it's not James 1:4 like it says there. It is 1 Kings chapter 22. You may have heard this, you may have seen this, and some of you have never seen this. You probably skipped over it. 1 Kings isn't something you really dig into too deeply, but this is a good one. Okay, so what do we have? We have Micah the prophet being called to give the king a prophecy. Now, Ahaz wants, Okay, Ahab wants to know from the prophets what's going to happen with the coming invasion or seeming coming invasion of Syria. So he's scared. I mean, Syria is a scary group, and he's coming in and he's saying, get all the prophets together. I don't care what God they are from, get them together, and let's ask them. And so he has this line of prophets, if you can picture it. And he wants a prophet from God. He wants a prophet of the Lord as well. So he wasn't really a good guy. He was like using whatever gods he could, and I think he was trying to find the best prophecy that he accepted the most, that he wanted the most, that fit into what his wanted worldview was. But anyway, so what you have is you have Micah the prophet who comes and tells him this prophecy. That he was taken up into the heaven. This is what Micah says. He was taken. Let's go back a little bit. Okay, and Micah said, therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on a throne. Notice that. Well, this is the second time I think we've seen this in the Bible. Well, you have it in Isaiah, and I think, Malachi is right around the same. Micah is right around the same time as Isaiah. So this is parallels the passage in Isaiah chapter 6 where he's taken up into heaven and he sees the throne of God. He says, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne and the host of heaven standing beside him on his right and on his left. Who are the host of heaven? Once again, we're introduced to these celestial beings that we're not, it doesn't explain who they are and exactly what they are. All we know is that they are underneath the power of the Lord. So they are standing around. Isaiah sees them, or Micah sees them, and the Lord is talking to this host. All these powerful celestial beings, angels, demons, whatever. I don't know what they are. I really don't. I mean, generally speaking, we call these people angels, or these creations angels, but angels is just a descriptive term concerning what they do. Like calling all people that are carpenters, saying that's a species. Carpenters are not a species. It's something they do. Angels are not a species. It's something they do. So, I mean, we've got angels showing up with wings on their feet, wings on their eyes. We've got angels showing up looking very much like a human. We've got scary ones. We've got really nice ones. I mean, it's ones that are mistaken for humans. It's just lots of stuff is going on in the background. And so the Lord is talking to all this creation, the celestial creation that he has helping him, obviously, that he is ruling over. I mean, he's delegating. He's a good leader. He's delegating authority. Could he do it all himself? Yeah, but what's the fun in that? He created people to engage. He created his creation, his rational creation, to engage with him in his grace and his creativity and everything he has to be able to do. So he is not hogging leadership. So he says, who will, there, the question is crazy. This is already a worldview blow up because God is using all these celestial beings. That's how he runs things. That's one thing we can come to from this. He runs things with the help of celestial beings. And not only that, he is truly engaged. He is truly asking questions among the host of heaven. Who will entice Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? So what is he saying? He's saying, who will do this for me? Who will make Ahab think he's going to win so that he will go get destroyed. That's crazy. All right, boom. Worldview just blew up again 2 times. And one said one thing, and another said another. I love that. That's one of my favorite verses. I mean, I want to get, if I got a tattoo, it'd say one said one thing and another said another. Why? Because it's just so funny how the narrative plays out, how real and rich and raw it is. We don't know what they said. I want to know what they said. I'm like, hold on, Lord. What did the first one say first? Just tell me. I just need to put it in my notebook here. And what do the other ones say? Here they are. Hey, who will go and entice Ahab? And this guy says, how about this? I'll do, comes up, another guy raises his hand. And then another spirit, it says, then, verse 21, then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, by what means? And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. And he said, you are to entice him. You shall succeed. Go out and do so. Therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these your prophets. This is what Micah again. Micah's telling them. He's saying, listen, all these prophets, they're ruled over by the spirit I saw up in heaven that said he was going to go lie to him. So don't believe him. Isn't this crazy? I mean, it's just absolutely bizarre. It's a worldview explosion. What do we take from this? Well, we take from this, number one, God uses evil because, number one, whenever we say, the first question is, why would God use an evil spirit, a lying spirit, someone who proposed this? Was he good before he proposed this? Was he trying to, get on the Lord's good side? Was he a brown noser? What is going on here? Well, maybe he was already an evil spirit. He probably was already an evil spirit. Well, wait a minute. Does that mean that the Lord has a bunch of evil spirits in front of him? Well, it does say that in Job. It says the Satan came to give an account for himself before the Lord, and as all the angels do, or all the spirits of God do, or all the sons of God do, or all the celestial beings do, or all of God's creation that he has running things. So why are they still? I thought they fell. Well, the fall of angels doesn't mean they went anywhere. It means they rebelled against God. They made their decision to turn on him, and they are bad. But notice this, God didn't take them out of their positions. They're still there. They're still being used by him. They are still the backdrop to whatever he's got going on, wherever he's got it going on. It seems like there are different angels that are assigned to different places, because we see this in Daniel. I should have put this up here, but in Daniel, whenever Gabriel comes to him, he said, Gabriel the angel comes to Daniel as Daniel's praying, and he says, I was held up. I'm sorry. It took me a long time, but I was held up by the Prince of Persia. Who's the Prince of Persia? Well, the Prince of Persia is probably the spirit being, the power, the principality, whatever it is that is over that particular nation. And so he was trying to stop him. It's probably set up in some way. I don't know how it is. And I don't think we should build out too much of a worldview here. All I'm saying is that this should explode. This is bizarre. This is crazy. Is this really going on? And if this is going on, just like with the Nephilim, are they still doing this? Well, in this case, why wouldn't they still be doing this? Why wouldn't there still be evil spirits that are over particular nations? Seems to be that that's the case. It seems to be that our goal as holders of the gospel is to go into all the nations and redeem the nations from this evil, from their sin, of course, but from the evil, the powers that be that are above them. We're going to defeat them. That's part of what the gospel does. And ultimately, that will be the end. Ultimately, these evil spirits will get all together and make one mass rebellion against the Lord. We will see that in the tribulation. Bizarre, right? I mean, tribulation, read Revelation. It's bizarre. All I wanted to say right now is this. as we're talking about Genesis chapter 6 and 1 Kings chapter 22. Keep those in mind anytime you get you think in too tight of a box. Your theology gets in too tight of a box. Again, I'm not saying it can't be true. I'm not saying you can't be confident in it. I'm just saying there's things outside that box. It's bigger. God is infinite. We are finite. It is something that we should rejoice in, be excited about, and understand. I think, like Dionysius the Areopagite, how incredible, how overwhelming the infinitude of God is compared to our finitude. Listen to this. We make this is Dionysius the Areopagite in his mystical theology, which we are reading. Here we go again. We are reading this year coming up. You haven't missed any of it. We are going to read Dionysius the Areopagite, mystical theology. I think it's around 30,000 words. It'll take us a few weeks at most, but get ready for that. Here is a quote from my good buddy Dionysius. We make assertions about what is beyond comprehension. That is true, isn't it? I mean, he gets it. He gets it. He's read these passages. We make assertions about what is beyond our comprehension, not in order to explain it, put it in a box, since this is impossible, but in order to preserve the mystery. Why do we teach these things? Why do we show these things? Why do we look at the things going on in the Bible? Because there is a mystery. There is a bizarreness to the world. And we need to keep the wonder of how bizarre things really are. There are things going on in the background. God didn't want to tell us too much. He just threw these in here real quick to say, before your box gets too tight, let me throw a couple of these things in here, these bizarre grenades, and make sure that you read them, because I'm not going to tell you what's going on. I'm not going to tell you who these angels are, or who these spirits are, or who the spirit was that came forward. I'm not going to tell you who said what and what said another. I'm not going to tell you about the Nephilim. All I'm going to tell you is that they were there afterwards, and obviously things are going on in the background. There's a battle going on. You may see things. You may hear things. It's not going to explode your worldview. It can't, because it's always necessary to have God as the foundation for that, and the cross will never be overturned. But there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be things that we see. We're seeing things right now, like I said, with whatever's going on with UFOs, whatever's going on with 0 point or zero gravity technology, whatever happened to that Malaysian plane that disappeared, it looks like it disappeared into nothing, into a portal, in 3 different videos, which I'm perfectly fine with. I have no clue what happened, but if you look at that, most people say, nah, that couldn't happen. Why not? Why is your worldview so tight? I mean, now we got something new, right? I don't know why the Lord's letting these things come out too, because usually it's like he kind of keeps a lid on these types of passages. He just throws them in there every once in a while, but these things are happening in our life, not only with UFOs, not only with stuff like the Malaysian flight that disappeared, but look at what's going on with the pyramid right now. I mean, just bizarre. Underneath the pyramid, there's 100 stories of a city, or of a 0 point energy factory, or of a flood container, or of a Nephilim. I mean, these pyramids themselves are a passage like this. I mean, they're just like these weird things. We have no clue how they came about. But it's easy to fit within a worldview as long as it's open. Well, sure, they could have come about. I mean, there's all kinds of creation of God. There is all kinds of stuff that happened in the antediluvian world before the flood. And I believe this stuff. I believe there were Nephilim. I believe there can be Nephilim. I believe there's spiritual forces that are battling. I believe that there are good guys and bad guys in heaven, and God is using them both. I believe that God uses evil, because if he did not use evil to accomplish good, he could not work at all, because that's all he has to work with. And so that's where it starts. And it's not his evil that is the genesis of it, because God cannot in any sense be the author of evil. And so, anyway, I hope this served as a worldview, at least check. Okay, maybe it didn't explode your worldview. Maybe you already have one that's more bizarre than mine. That's fine. Just follow along with what the Bible says. Don't look to, we in the last 200 years have looked to the modern worldview and have been so scared that we will be called crazy, that we will be called bizarre, that we have fit so neatly everything that we believe into their boxes. And those aren't our boxes. They never have been. I mean, they are in the sense that what is stated is true, but what their assumptions are that there's not more is not true. There's no rational disconnect between giants. There could be a giant right outside. And then what do? I fit it with my worldview. There's no rational distinction between what is going on in science and a UFO coming down. It's just something that's beyond what we currently know. It's not contrary to what we know. It's beyond what we know. And that is what I'm talking about here. We try to please the modern worldview so much. I remember in seminary, I forget who it was. I think it was Dan Wallace, but I don't want to make this a quote from him, but it's one of my professors. No, excuse me. It's not Dan Wallace. No, there's two of them. There's two. One Dan Wallace, one Charles Ryrie. Charles Ryrie one time said, evangelicals, there's nothing more that an evangelical wants than to be called a scholar by a liberal. And just think about that. That's crazy. Why? Because we want to fit within their boxes because they're cool. They are seen or perceived by a culture that's in a box as the smart people. Why? Because they have their box. And so we say, hey, can we come in your box? And can we be cool in your box too? There's nothing more that an evangelical wants than to be called a scholar by a liberal. That's sad. That's sad. But I do understand the temptation. I'm not saying I don't. It's just, we shouldn't be there. We should never go there. Now, another thing, no, I'm not going to say the next one. I can't. Now y'all are going to be mad at me. But I said this and I said that, and you don't get to hear it. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. And hey, don't forget to like. See you next time.
Theology